What's going on out there, guys? Will Ripley here, tuning in live. Hope you're doing excellent and having a wonderful day. Here in Canada, it's finally becoming summer. I was out mountain biking this morning and looking forward to hanging with you here and teaching this live lesson on one of my favorite guitar players and arguably and questionably maybe one of the greatest blues guitar players of all time. Certainly he went on to influence amazing guitarists such as Stevie Ray Vaughan and Jimi Hendrix and countless others. And we're going to be talking about the one and only Mr. Albert King. So, of course, I had to play the iconic Flying V guitar here today. And so do let me know where you are tuning in from in the world and what kind of guitar you're playing today. So, of course, it doesn't really matter whether it's acoustic or electric. You're still going to get a ton out of this lesson. And whether you're playing a Fender style guitar or a Gibson style guitar or whatever, as long as it's got 6 strings, you're going to be in a good place here today. However, we're going to be doing some really, really big bends. And if you caught that intro I was just jamming on, that's certainly one of the big stylistic things of Mr. Albert King was he, so first of all, it's said that he tuned his guitar down so the strings were quite slinky, and that helped allow some of those bends. But we're going to be doing some really massive bends here in today's lesson, and Albert King had a really unique kind of approach to the guitar. And if you love blues guitar, and I'm sure you guys are totally familiar with Albert King, and if you are, you know, you're in a good spot, and I look forward to breaking this stuff down. Do let me know what your favorite Albert King song is, or if you have anything about Albert King. And of course, he was a great big tall guy, over 6 feet, maybe even like 6'4" or something like that, and he played a Flying V. And what's really interesting about these guitars is they were actually designed in the late 1950s, and they came out with this crazy design. And of course, they didn't really sell too well, and of course, there were never many made. But Albert King played one of these, and they were made out of Carina, which was like a very unique style of wood. And so before you knew it, there was like hardly any of those guitars around anymore, and the ones that are out there are like $250,000. You know, they're just like crazy expensive. And so mine is a 1998 model, and but I've modified it, especially, you know, with the big Gibson logo and the original style tuners. But yeah, so this is a limited edition Flying V, and definitely my kind of homage and tip in my hat to Albert King. And Jimi Hendrix, who's another one of my favorite guitar players, played a Flying V later on in his career as well. So anyways, we are monitoring all the different YouTube channels and Facebook pages, and of course all you Jam Play members know that if you're watching it inside of the Jam Play members community, that you can get the jam track and the tabs, which are all done in Guitar Pro. So all you Jam Play members know that already, and you get the live stream and the tabs and the jam track all available in one spot. And if you're watching and tuning in from the Campfire Guitar Star networks, you'll know that you can get a 7-day free trial to Jam Play. You'll find the link and the info for that in the description below. But without further ado, guys, let's hop into this lesson and start kind of dissecting Albert King's style and get some new cool licks under your fingers. So why don't we just warm up on the first 3 minor pentatonic scales. And of course, you guys are probably familiar with this guy right here. And if you aren't, then just see if you can get that one under your fingers as quickly as you can. And if you do know this, the scale, then just start cycling through it just as fast, as quickly and as comfortably as you can. So maybe that looks like just something like this, just up and down, or however fast or however slow, just see if you can get this scale going. We're just going to warm up our fingers here for a second, and just, yeah, hope you're well rested, your hands anyways, because we're going to be doing some very aggressive bends here today. So let's warm up these fingers and make sure that we don't injure them. I'm serious, this is definitely going to be physically challenging for a lot of you guys. So So that's our first position, minor pentatonic, and we're going to be really focusing on A minor pentatonic. So when you start that scale from the 5th fret, there's your A note. That's going to be your minor pentatonic scale in the key of A. So where your pinky finger left off, and in fact all those notes that we were finding on, like, so we've got 5, 8, 5, 7, 5, 7, 5, 7, 5, 8, 5, 8. So all those notes on the 8th and 7th frets, those are the connection notes of our next scale, which is the 2nd position minor pentatonic, which looks something like this. You're going to start on your 2nd finger on that 8th fret, and you'll always find that your 2nd or your 1st finger is always going to line up on those 8th or 7th frets. But here's what we got for this one. So we got 8, 10, 7, 10, 7, 10, 7, 9, 8, 10, 8, 10. Okay, so those are our 2nd position A minor pentatonic scale. 8, 10, I'll try to say this, all the numbers in the correct order. 8, 10, 7, 10, 7, 10, 7, 9, 8, 10, 8, 10. Okay? And when you go for blues licks, yeah, typically you won't be using your 2nd finger and your pinky finger on those. And in fact, more often than not, you'll be using your 1st and your 3rd finger. But just when you're actually playing a scale and going up and down on it like this, it just kind of lines up a lot more kind of ergonomically correct, you know, to line your fingers up like that. So however fast you know that scale, just see if you can just cycle up and down that. Maybe you know it already and you're plowing through it. And then that's going to bring us up to the 10th fret for our 3rd position. And this, my friends, this is really where Albert King lived on the guitar, and where we're going to be hanging out a lot on this lesson. So, and this is kind of like, this is probably the hardest minor pentatonic scale for a lot of people to get. And if you caught my live lesson last week, and I forgot to even mention that this is Rock Guitar Solo of the Week. That's the name, and we're going live every Friday. But last week I did a live lesson that was the first one of the series called Jimmy's Voodoo. Okay, and I was talking about kind of rewriting the way that us guitar players learn minor pentatonics. So right now I'm teaching you the kind of the traditional way and the traditional fingerings and stuff like that. And so I kind of think about this scale in 2 bits. So we've got 10, 12, 10, 12, 10, 12. Okay, so that's pretty straightforward. Okay, and you'll recognize these notes from here in our 1st position minor pentatonic. You know, which feel and are exactly the same, as you can hear. So, and in Jimmy's Voodoo, we were talking about this kind of hybrid scale of starting here and then going up into the next one. And that's a way to kind of go diagonally up and across the strings. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to kind of focus on this section of the minor pentatonic, like this, 10, 12, 10, 12, 10, 12. But here's where things get interesting, is we're going to bump down to 9th fret, to 12th fret, 10th fret to 13th fret, and then 10 to 12 right here. So let's just focus on this little zone right here for a second. So we've got, if I were to go down, 12, 10, 13, 10, 12, 9. Okay, so and almost always with pentatonic scales, you'll kind of be able to use your ear. Like if you do something like this, whoa, right? It's just like, it's kind of like, is shocking, right? So you'll always kind of, there's that sound, right? Okay, and this, my friends, is where we're going to be spending a lot of time. So, and if you caught kind of the overview or synopsis of what we're going to go into in today's lesson is the Albert box, but also a lot of guitar players call this the BB box, this little zone right here. And this is where B.B. King would get those really, really sweet guitar tones like... that great stuff. And so that's just a slight adjustment. So instead of hitting this minor third right here, the quintessential minor note, we're gonna go to this note right here, which is 10, 12. Okay, so we just kind of adjust that a little bit, but we definitely bend that note, so it definitely hits the note that the 13th fret represents, but we're just gonna kind of hint at it just by bending into it a little bit. So, you know, so there's some really cool things like that going on. And of course the quintessential BB King lick, it's going up to the root note, which is in this case 17th fret of the high E. Okay, and as you can hear, like, and if you listen to enough BB King, just those kind of elements to my ear, anyway, is just like, that's so BB right there, you know. But we're not going to talk a ton about BB King today. I just wanted to mention that because a lot of times this little zone is on the guitar is commonly referred to as the BB box. And so what I want to show you is kind of this Albert King scale, which sounds like this. Okay, and it's really challenging. So let's just get the notes under our fingers and into our ears a little bit. Let's go back to our first position, minor pentatonic. And if you know your blues scale, you'll know that you can go. Add those notes in right there, right on the G, so 8, 7, 5. Okay, so here's the little melody that we're going to be playing in this solo. Okay, so we're going to go up. Okay, so there it is. So maybe you can kind of get that in your head and start singing along with me. It's a good little exercise to sing and play at the same time too. But yeah, so that's the melody that we're going to be riffing on. And if you ever get kind of stuck on these crazy Albert King style bends I'm about to show you, then just know that you can go back to this area and find those notes in a much more comfortable zone. So and of course, it's all about intonating your bends, which you can see I was already messing up on a little bit. So intonating bends is definitely a really challenging thing about blues guitar, you know, blues guitar soloing. So, so we're live. There's not going to be any edits here, you know, no pitch corrections. So I might hit a couple wrong notes while I'm intonating my own bends. So just know that, you know, it's totally okay to be doing that. So getting back to this zone, what we're going to be doing is that exact same melody, and that's the first part of this solo that I want to show you guys. And of course, as you know, you Jam Play members have access to the tabs and that backing track, but we'll break it down here and we'll get the tabs up on the screen and all that kind of stuff. But let's, before we even do that, let's just really focus on this little scale. So we're going to be doing that exact same melody, but here's how we're going to be doing it. We're only going to be really accessing these two notes, 10 and 13 on the B string. And just a side note, whenever you want to access this zone, whether it's the BB King box or the Albert King box in this Albert King scale, just know that this note right here with my first finger is our root note. It's A. As you can hear, I'm just playing my A string. Sure enough, they're the identical notes. Of course, they're an octave or two apart, but so that's home base, right? So here we go. So there's that melody, right? Okay, so let's just talk about this. So you can definitely play it more like a scale. Of course, I was playing it more like a melody there, but okay. So what we're doing there is we're just doing that exact same little blues cycle out of a blues scale. And just going down, right? So that's really a blues scale, almost in its entirety. So. Okay, and so let's talk about bending. Okay, and let me know in the comments. Just type a big capital YES if yes you are getting the bends, and type a big capital NO if you are not getting those bends whatsoever, or you're falling short, or just something's not sounding right. So, and just let me know where you're at. Now, for those of you that are saying no, what I want to do is just check in with some of your bending techniques here. And the big thing that you want to do is make sure that you get multiple fingers lined up on a single string, okay? So with big bends like this, what we got to do is get, and you can just see for yourself, when I'm doing those bends, I don't just have my pinky finger on there, right? If I was trying to do that, I wouldn't get much past there, right? But even if you get one more finger on, you just get a lot more muscle on the string. But try getting 3 or even 4, or if you're bending with your third finger, then you'll just want to have whatever fingers you got behind that finger that you're using to bend, basically. Okay? So whether you're using your pinky finger or your third finger, just get fingers in behind that string, get them right on the string, and it just so happens that they kind of line up on the frets behind, but that doesn't actually really matter, just as long as they're somewhere behind your finger, your string finger bending finger. Oh man, so you know what I'm saying. Okay, and so let's just see how far and wide you can bend that string. Okay, and if you can get up to that note, that's just straight Albert King territory right there. Okay, and then we can find all these cool notes in between, and just in that whole range. So say we got our starting note here and our ending note here, well, there's going to be those notes that we can find and intonate inside of that blues scale. Okay, so and then if we get down to that melody, so just see if you can join along with me, but again, that's like, here we go. Okay, and so that's going to be the first few licks that you'll see tabbed out there. So, and I'm assuming, I'm not actually, oh yeah, we got the tabs pulled up there, perfect. So there you go. So we got 2 on the 10, we got a full bend, 1.5 bend, a full 2-step bend, back down to that 1.5, back down to the full. And you can kind of even, yeah, and you can see there's just all these stylistic things, like, again, from that starting point to that 2 full step bend, you know, and all these sweeps in between and all these notes you can hit in between. But that in a nutshell is and are the notes that Albert was nailing. And you know, and really creating his own sound. And then, of course, and sure enough, you'd hear Jimi Hendrix play licks like that in Red House, and Stevie Ray Vaughan would play Albert King licks like basically in every song, in every solo that he played. So, and yeah, in both those, especially Stevie Ray Vaughan, like really tipped his hat to Albert King and cited him as a major influence. And they actually did. And you can actually just search Albert King and Stevie Ray Vaughan. They did a whole series together in the 80s where they were filming in the studio and jamming together and stuff. And so it's pretty neat. It's pretty cool to see those guys hanging out like that. So, okay, so that's the very first part of this solo. And the only other variation is when we go down to this 10th fret, you can hit these two notes together. And I really wanted to get that one in there just to show you kind of this hybrid scale again that will connect this zone into your first position minor pentatonic. Okay, so I just wanted to show you that like, that's a cool lick first of all, but that's kind of like that. If you're improvising in this zone on the guitar, then that would be a great thing to go, you know, just to get back into home base here. Okay. All right, so that's going to be the first couple of lines of the tab, and then we're just going to go in for some straight good old fashioned big Albert style bends, which we've talked a little bit about, but okay, vibrato of course, okay, and let me know if you guys do have any questions about vibrato and maybe we can do like a quick crash course on how to do that, but of course. And if I just hop into a super mini crash course, vibrato is all about shaking the note in one direction. Okay, I'm not going up towards the ceiling and down towards the floor. I'm only going towards the floor and back home base. Okay, I'm twisting my finger. Okay, I'm twisting my hand in a rhythmic motion. Okay, and I'm also got this thumb and finger lock going on, and I can even wiggle the guitar a little bit just to help me with that rhythm. Okay, so that's just a quick mini crash course to vibrato, but do let me know if you guys want me to dive into that a little bit more in depth. But yeah, so that lick would look like. Okay, so some big two whole step bends. So okay, and then what we're going to do is inside the jam track, this is not a 12-bar blues, but what it does is it sits on the one chord for a good length of time, and then you'll hear when the bass line will start climbing up into the 4 chord. So it'd be something like. Okay, so Albert King would always do this beautiful little build up where he would just build so much tension with those huge bends and then release it down into that 10th fret. So what that would sound like is, okay, and that just sounds awesome, just dropping over top of the 4 chord or this D7 chord, which pops up. And this note is the 5th of D, and that's why that note just sounds so right, okay? So, and then here's a classic Albert King lick, and something that I think that is just so simple, but we can draw a lot of inspiration from this, which is just this, okay? And if you know the song Crossfire by Stevie Ray Vaughan, he actually made a whole hit song out of that lick. Okay. Now Albert King would have maybe have played it more in this zone. Okay. So again, in this exact same minor pentatonic box that we've been talking about. So on the D string, you're going to be bending that up towards the ceiling for a full step. Okay, but you don't have to worry about really nailing that. It's just Okay, we're gonna skip over the G string to the 10th fret. Okay, there's that home bass note, right? The 10th fret of the B string, which we're spending a lot of time on. And then we're gonna hop back over to the 10th fret of the D string. Okay, so just 3 notes. Can't get Crossfire out of my head. So, okay, and I'm doing a lot of muting there just to make sure that no strings are accidentally ringing through. Now, why I think that this lick is so brilliant and how we can draw some inspiration from this is it's just quite simply skipping strings, but right inside the minor pentatonic box. And so Stevie Ray Vaughan would have played a lot of these Albert-style licks, but just kind of in the more traditional kind of blues boxes. So if we go back to our minor pentatonic scale down here, if you hit the 7th fret of the G string, bend that up a full step to the high E string on the 5th fret, and then over to your 5th fret of your G string. So again, G string, E string, back to the G string. So, okay, so just string skipping inside of that minor pentatonics box. So if you're ever getting kind of bored with your playing, and again, type a big capital Y-E-S if you've ever been kind of bored by your guitar playing, you know, especially your soloing abilities. Because I think a lot of times, you know, what I see from teaching all the years that I have is a lot of times people, they just kind of go up their minor pentatonic scales and then they go down, okay? Which is all good and it sounds musical and you know it sounds good. But if you just do something cool like that, like hit a note, string skip, and then string skip again, you can get these big wide intervals, right? So instead of like boom, 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 going up the scale, you can go boom, 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 right? Like just hopping around and having a bigger, wider space in between your notes. So anyways, it's just 3 notes, but I just wanted to take a few minutes and talk about that. So again, I think to get more of that Albert King sound, that would be found down here, and you'll see that tabbed out. 12, 10, 10. Okay. All right, so then that brings us back to, and we're getting just at the very end of page 1. We're just about to hop into page 2. Okay, so we're just back to that classic 13th fret Albert King's bend. Okay. But I wanted to throw in this little section of going to the 10th fret of the high E string. Okay, so this is where a lot of people think that Albert King is playing, and but they do have a very different sound, right? Same lick. Okay, so, and again, this is kind of a more traditional blues box that you'll find that is starting on the 10th fret of the high E, and this is where Stevie Ray Vaughan would have been copping some Albert King licks. So what we got is, okay, just a really straightforward kind of classic blues lick. And then I got this fast little fiery pull-off lick. So that's just 8, 10 pull off into that 9th fret. Okay, and a lot of blues licks kind of end with just like little quick flourishes like that. Right, just like little endings like that. So, but yeah, I love that little zone. And always think about, like, if that's difficult for you to play, then just what you can do is put a little segment like that to a metronome. Just a little tiny segment look like that. Put it under the microscope and really spend some quality time with just a simple lick like that. And go ahead and just feel free to cycle that as fast fast or as slow as you need to, just to, okay? So, okay. Okay, so we're back to some 13th fret, double, some double whole tone bends. Okay, and then I wanted to show you this one. Let me know if you guys have listened to the Albert King album, Live Wire Blues Power. That was, of course, his live album, or one of his live albums. I don't know how many he produced, but it's a very famous one, and there's some really, really amazing guitar playing on that, and maybe arguably is you know, some of that like really quintessential Albert King style guitar playing. But yeah, there's a couple songs on there. Like I think this is the first song. It's a slow blues, and it's like 6 or 7 minutes long. And anyways, it's just some really, really hot guitar playing. But he was doing something like this, and I wanted to throw this idea here. So if we go back to this 10th fret full step bend, well, check this out. And I first learned this from Jimi Hendrix, but if you bend that string up, as you know, you're pushing against these other strings, so like the B and the G string, and you're kind of pushing those up as well, even though you're really just hitting that and allowing that high E string to bend. But if you actually go like this, you can actually get your third finger to fret the B string as well. And it really creates like a lot of dissonance. And let me know if you guys like this sound, but you know, because it can be a little bit jarring when you hear that, because it's just like, whoa, what's happening there? Right, so and that's kind of like a Stevie Ray Vaughan thing that he would do too, but yeah. So a lot of dissonance, a lot of tension, right? There's a lot of tension there. So yeah, so again, just bend that up and see if you can get your third finger to also fret over top of the B string. And then you can just release that. Okay? And like I said, the first time that I ever saw a lick like that was actually through learning a Jimi Hendrix lick, which was in this kind of back into our home bass A minor pentatonic box, which is just a whole step bend here, just like the classic, like this note right here, but so it sounds something like this. Yeah, and you'd also hear it played in a similar way to what I just showed you there. Right? It's dissonant, but it provides that tension that I think is just so epic in blues. So again, this isn't tabbed out and stuff, but that's just a whole step bend on the B string of the 8th fret, grabbing the G string in this case, the exact same technique that I just went over. And that's like really quite dissonant, and you can kind of mess around with it. But yeah, it would just be something like this. Like you bend up the B string, hit the G string, and release, okay? Okay, so that's just really activating some of those strings you're already bending and just getting kind of a unique tone out of them. Okay, and let me just double check. I think there was a question that popped up here. Okay, so question, are you using lighter gauge strings to reach that second step bend? No, I am not. I'm using actually 10.5s on this guitar. So that's actually half a step above your regular gauge strings, okay? And when you're bending, do your fingers go under the other strings? They don't go under. You got to think about your fingers like a plow. Like, I'm from Canada, so I'm going to say that it's like a snow plow. Okay, so we want to think about like a big snow plow just slamming into the snow and just pushing it all along, right? And so your finger acts like a big snow plow in that sense. So when you were bending that B string, for instance, at this point, I'm hitting the G string, it's just pushing against the D string, and even a little bit of that A string too. Okay, now I want to talk about this lick, guys. So that's like a classic Albert King. I remember when, and he always plays that right at the end of the blues. So like when we go, it would happen right there. And let me know if you guys can just hear that for yourself. That's like so Albert King. But yeah, he would often play that right on the turnaround. So this is a great turnaround lick to know. We're gonna, again, kind of approach it, and you'll see this tabbed out. It's just the last line of the tab. So 10, 10, 10, 8, 5, and then here's this some really unique kind of string skipping like we had explored in that other Albert King lick. So we've got 10, 5, so down to 7 on the D, and then another string skip, kind of rolling your finger over to the 7th fret of the A string. So, so again, we're going to start up on this 10th fret since we've been calling this home base. You can also play this from the 5th fret, and I would recommend that you learn it in both ways, but just from what's tabbed out here, here's how it sounds. So I'll play it nice and slow. So 3 times on that 10. Roll over, so 5, roll, and then a 7, roll. And it just has a really nice kind of cadence, very simple rhythm, a lot of quarter notes. But yeah, so... Okay, one more time. Ready, go. One more time. Okay, so that's always a great lick that you can always put on that turnaround. And another great thing that you can take from this solo in this lesson for your own blues playing is this zone right here where it would land on the 4 chords. So again, when the band would go, okay, so that would be that. Like just tension, 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 release. Okay, and landing that note right when the band hits the D chord. That's just such a powerhouse move. Okay, and then again, another powerhouse move that I've definitely lifted from Albert King is to play that lick on the turnaround. And so the whole idea is that when you land on that note, the 7th fret of the A string, that is your E note, which is the turnaround chord, right? So it sounds very complete and finalized before you go back to A. So that's always just a really cool thing when you're ending a lick right on the turnaround, whatever it is. Right? It just always sounds really cool to hit that note right on that turnaround before you set it up again, you know, and yeah, so there's some cool powerhouse moves. So what I'll do for you guys here is I'm going to play through the solo basically note for note, and I'll probably do a couple cycles. Maybe I'll expand on some of these ideas and just improvise on some Albert King licks. And so what I want to do now, guys, though, is open it up for Q&A. So get those typing fingers flying. Let's get the conversation rolling on blues guitar, rock guitar, and Mr. Albert King. And of course, anything that you needed help with in terms of bending, in terms of some of these licks that we went over. If you wanted me to go over a certain part of these licks or the solo, okay, start getting those typing fingers flying. And also, I wanted to mention that this is called Rock Guitar Solo of the Week, right? And we're going live every Friday for, I guess, the next 6 weeks now. Okay, so now, but we're doing like a funky blues track here. Now, I want to just point out that yes, we're really honing into Albert King's style on this Rock Guitar Solo of the Week, but this is such a cool zone to go into when you're playing a rock song, because people don't really expect to hear licks like that. And even in blues jams and stuff, it'd be like, whoa, that's different. That's a different approach. Like, not a lot of guitar players are going for this vibe. Okay, and like I said, if you're playing a straight up like hard rock song, if you're doing these gnarly big 2 whole step bends, well, that's just unique and different. So I personally absolutely go into the zone and blast out some Albert King style licks over, you know, hard rock songs, and I think it sounds really cool. So I just wanted to point that out. Okay, guys, so here we go. I'm gonna light it up here on this solo. See if my guitar's still in tune after all those bends. Not bad. All right, it's good enough. Good enough for rock. Here we go. So that jam track was something I ripped up in the studio last week. And as you know, you Jam Play members will be able to download that. So it's good, it's over 4 minutes long, so you'll have a lot of kind of time to mess around with those bends, and also it's just, I think, just a cool, funky, bluesy track to just have in your, on your hard drive or in your phone or whatever to be able to bust out and have some fun with. And yeah, so all you Jam Play members will be able to download that. If you're not a Jam Play member, make sure to start your 7-day free trial. You'll be able to find that link in the description below, which will get you to be able to download the tabs, download the jam track, and of course, you know, access this lesson anytime you want. And so let me know if you guys do have any questions. I do want to go into just a few more Albert King style ideas for you, and just kind of blues guitar, electric guitar, lead guitar kind of concepts for you guys, which I hope you guys will dig. So now one of the biggest things that I find, okay, we got to talk about this, the pick, okay? Did you know that all those guys, I think B.B. King, Freddie King, and Albert King, I don't think any of them played with a pick. Correct me if I'm wrong, okay? Type that into the comments if you know for certain that B.B. King played with a pick. And maybe all these guys played with a pick once in a while in their careers, but I know that Albert King, and I'm pretty sure Freddie King, and I'm pretty sure B.B. King did not play with a pick. So what you can do is you can get a lot more snap out of the strings by actually just picking them with your fingers. So we can change something like this to right, and it kind of changes the rhythm of it too. Kind of makes it more staccato. So it just means kind of shorter, and like just kind of how the word sounds, staccato, you know, tick, 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 kind of. So there I'm using my thumb, and I'm planting my whole right hand on the strings just to mute the other strings, and that's just, by the way, just such a great thing that you should definitely double check just to make sure you're doing, is just, whether you're using a pick or your fingers, is just to have that right hand kind of planted. The heel of my hand is planted on the bridge here, and so that's something to just double check, make sure you're doing, because that's going to provide you with a lot more accuracy with your picking and with your playing. But so in that case, I'm using my my thumb, and I'm plucking up like away from the guitar, kind of like just out that way, and you know, and then, but you can definitely use your first finger or your second finger too. But yeah, so if I go up to the 17th fret of the high E string, I can really get a lot of snap out of that. And it kind of sounds a lot like Albert Collins. Okay, I know there's a lot of familiar names here, or similar names here. We've got Albert King, Albert Collins, you know, B.B. King, Freddie King. It's crazy how they all shared the last name, the three Kings. But like, I'm sure that you guys can hear that. That's just like very snappy and very stingy, right? Like, it's just like, ooh, it just hurts so good, you know? So to my ears, that already sounds a lot more like Albert King. It's just using your fingers, okay, and just snapping those strings. So that's like a really, really important blues thing, because of course we always associate finger picking with, or you know, just kind of classic, kind of acoustic finger picking. But actually, it's very much a blues technique too. So again, if we go back to that turnaround lick, it just sounds a lot more bluesy, a lot more snappy, it has a lot more tension if we just use our thumb or our first finger to snap those strings. I mean, that's just like getting me so much more excited just hearing that lick. So again, with a pick, and with fingers, it's just like somehow more intense, you know? I mean, like, I think tension is a great word, because with the blues, it's all about building tension and releasing that tension, you know? So that was one big thing I wanted to point out. And let me know if you guys noticed this, but check out how much reverb I have on my sound. So, of course, what you're listening to is the sound that's decaying after I hit my note. So, so I'm just running it off of a Strymon Flint pedal, which is just emulating. Actually, it's really emulating the reverb sound from something like a Fender Super Reverb. You know, so of course Fender amps, which all the old blues guys would play, except for Eric Clapton. Eric Clapton played a Marshall. But anyways, yeah, the Fender amps all have really, really beautiful spring reverb tanks, and that's a really, really important part of that sound. And so, like, check it out. If I take it off, now listen to how dry that is, right? There's absolutely no sound coming off my guitar. And so if so I just want to point out that reverb is a very, very important part about your blues tone and getting kind of a good sound. And actually, I'm finding that in the last couple of years of playing, I've had a lot of amps, like Marshalls typically don't have reverb, and the reverb that do come in Marshall amps isn't that desirable. So, but most of the classic Marshall amps just do not have reverb, including this one, and including this one. Like, they don't have reverb built in. But I'm finding in the last couple of years, I always want to have reverb going. It just feels a lot nicer to play with reverb. So, so if I play that lick again, even with fingers and everything, okay, and with reverb, okay, you can hear that kind of that warble of this spring reverb sound. So I just wanted to point that out, guys, that we've got this really, really important sound going on with our blues tone, which is reverb, and your fingers, okay? And I didn't talk too much about the pickups. I was just really living on the bridge pickup in this lesson. Just to my ears, with my current setup, it just kind of sounded the best. But one thing to keep in mind is to roll that volume down. That's something that a lot of the blues guys and a lot of the rock guys and people still do today, which is adjusting that volume knob, which just has a huge impact on your guitar's sound and how a lot of your favorite guitar sounds have been recorded. You know, especially, you know, what comes to mind is like Little Wing or Castles Made of Sand by Jimi Hendrix. It's definitely like a volume rolled down type of tone, which sounds really, really nice. So that was my setup here today, and yeah, so we learned some cool powerhouse moves that you can do on any blues, which were you know, that turnaround lick, and then when that 4-chord comes in on the jam track to like just release that tension. And also, I just want to encourage you guys to find those areas where you can skip around in your pentatonic scale. Like, don't be stuck going up and down the pentatonic scale, and that crossfire lick, or really it's an Albert King lick, as we've kind of discovered. But you know, so that's just such a unique way, and it's not that special, right? When you think about it, it's just okay. There's nothing special about that, you know, but what sounds cool is just the idea of skipping strings and playing bigger, larger intervals between your scale notes, okay? So, and that's what you hear all those guys doing. Like Jimi Hendrix comes to mind as a guy that would do that a lot, and just finding really unique ways of using the minor pentatonic scale, and just by kind of like, yeah, what happens if I go like this and that, or if I go all of a sudden, it doesn't really sound like the minor pentatonic scale anymore, because of course we're used to hearing stuff like, and there's nothing wrong with that, and definitely get those licks down and rip those out any chance you can. But if you're ever finding yourself bored with your playing, definitely, you know, see if you can find some unique ways of approaching the scales that you know, and you know, we can definitely take a page from Albert's book and use these cool string skipping ones. Yeah, I just love that stuff, and I hope that you guys dug this lesson. So a couple of questions have come in, so now is the time to get those questions in. If you guys want me to go over anything in particular about this lesson, now is the time, guys. And if you haven't already, get that 7-day trial fired up on JamPlay. You'll find that link in the description below. So when we're talking about fingers, a question came in. If you use fingers, is that with your nails? Okay, great question. It is not, okay? It is really with just the fleshy part of your thumb, the fleshy part of your finger, okay? And I know that that's a confusing thing because sometimes you see acoustic finger style guys with like really long fingernails. In fact, I went to music college with a guy that would, if he broke a nail, he would actually go get like fake nails, you know, like, I don't know, fake nails, the ones that women will glue on, you know? So he had those to help him with his acoustic finger style stuff. He was like super, super into it. So, and yeah, and of course that's something that we associate with acoustic finger style. But in this case, yeah, it's all about the fleshy part of your fingers, which will give you kind of more of a fleshy tone. Okay, if you think about like your nails, that will give you a brighter sound, and maybe that's cool too. You know, so mess around with it, but I think what you'll find to get a kind of warmer, bluesier sound, that you're going to want to use the flesh of your fingers. And another question came in, do you prefer the Fender amp over the Marshall? So that's a really good question. Okay, so, it kind of depends on what style of music you're playing. So like I said, this amp, like the classic 60s or 70s style Fender amps are great blues and rock amps. Everybody from the Rolling Stones to Albert King would have played them. And they have that beautiful spring reverb tank like built in. So, and they're just so amazing, and I can't say enough good things. And a Marshall is of course more associated with rock, you know, like Hendrix or Cream or Van Halen or Rage Against the Machine or the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Like just rock bands would tend to gravitate towards Marshall amps. However, like I mentioned, Eric Clapton in his Blues Breaker days, and let me know if you guys have heard that album. It's just such great blues guitar playing. He was playing something similar to this, which is like an old style Marshall amp, which was a JTM 45 in a 212 enclosure, which was coined the Blues Breaker. You know, so I think Marshall still produces that amp. But anyways, they're around, and you can track them down. But so that's like a really cool blues amp too. But as you can see, I have a little bit of both, and I really like it that way. I really like having an old school Fender, I like having an old school Marshall, and I like having a more modern Marshall. That's kind of what I've decided on lately, and I've sold 2 of my other amps recently, and I'm selling another one, and yeah, just like really kind of downsizing to just some of these basics. Vintage Fender, vintage Marshall, and a modern style Marshall. So that's really what I'm digging these days. So, question comes in: blues is typically played in what key? Interesting question. So here's a really quick hack for that, guys. And if you're ever wondering, like, you know, what scales should I focus on? Like, what should I practice? What should I focus on? Well, as you guys know, you've got these 5 open strings, E, A, D, G, and B, and then the high E string is just a repeat, right? So I've found that blues is typically played in E, A, D, G, and B, sometimes B flat, okay? So if you're ever wondering what scales to focus on, if you're ever wondering what notes to memorize, start with those 5 notes, okay? E, A, D, G, and B. So learn your minor pentatonic scales and your major pentatonic scales in E, A, D, G, and B, okay? And if you're wanting to memorize this whole grid, focus on those notes, E, A, D, G, and B. See if you can find, at least 2 E notes and 2 A notes and 2 D notes on every string, and see if you can memorize that and get those happening quickly. Because, yeah, like I said, a lot of tunes are played in those keys. And then in those times that there is a song in the key of B flat, say like Chuck Berry's Johnny Be Good is in the key of B flat, okay, and a lot of songs are. or like Immigrant Song by Led Zeppelin is in F sharp. Well, so if you know your B notes really well, and if you know your A notes and your A scales really well, B flat is right in between. So at least it won't be too much adjustment to get into that key. Or if you come across a song or a solo that's in the key of C, well, maybe if you focus a lot on your B notes and your D notes, well, C is just kind of right in between. And you know what I mean? So again, those 5 notes I feel like are really, really essential and something that you guys should all focus on, and something I certainly focused on. And you know, because it can be overwhelming. It's like, okay, where are all my G sharp notes on the guitar? Well, you know, how many scales and solos are you going to come across that are in G sharp? Like, I can't even think of one right now, you know. And if you know of a scale or a solo, sorry, if you know a solo or a song in G sharp without tuning, without changing the tuning on your guitar, then do let me know what song it is. I'd be curious to know. All right, well, cool, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. It's been a ton of fun putting together this jam track and the solo composition, and which, of course, all you Jam Play members know you have access to those. So download that stuff, dig in. Hope you have a ton of fun with that. And if you're not a Jam Play member, well, the Jam Play guys have been really cool to hook you guys up with a 7-day free trial to Jam Play. So you can dive in, and I actually have 6 full-length courses on Jam Play, one of which I actually just released a kind of like an overview on my YouTube channel on Campfire Guitar Star, which is just an overview of my course called Building the Blues. So, and in fact, I'm not even lying to you, a message just came in today on my phone. I'm just gonna pull it up and read it to you and show it to you, because I get messages like this a lot, and it's super cool and really humbling. So I don't know if you guys can see this. Let's see. So let me pull this up. So, I should actually pull his. Damn, Will, just got turned on to your Jam Play new blues course. Excited about it. You busy, bro. Love the lessons. Okay, so this literally just came in today, and I've been really surprised over the years. It's actually not a new course. It's new to him, obviously, but we recorded that years ago, and it's been out for a few years. So a lot of people really love Building the Blues. So if you're into the blues, you want to get better at the blues, you want to expand your blues skills, definitely check out that course. And there's, of course, so many other great blues teachers and great blues courses on Jam Play. So if you haven't started your 7-day trial, that link is in the description for you below to check that out. But of course, all you Jam Play members know that the guys from Jam Play are taking care of you. And we'll be going live every Friday at this same time. Okay, so if you're into this, make sure to join me for Rock Guitar Solo of the Week number 3, which is coming at you next Friday, so stay tuned for that. Otherwise, guys, have a great day and a great weekend, and keep on ripping it up.